We thought of opening a brewery independently. Before, I mean, he's been a home brewer, a really successful one before this for 25 years, 30 years, and I just like beer. And I think it's a cool business, and everywhere we both went, separately obviously, before we met, we loved breweries and thought they brought a really cool feel to the communities that they're in, and so we felt like, why wouldn't Bartlesville have a brewery? Another one of our partners, Casey Fouts, she and I talked about it too, and so we were kind of on the hunt for a brewer, and his name came up as we were asking around, and so we ended up getting together with Sean, and it was pretty obvious that we ought to get together and make something happen. And so that was in December 2018 is when we would have met, and then took all of 19, and really in a year and a half we're able to get this thing up and running, which was really cool. It was a pretty fast speed. But we're excited. We're out here on 2nd and Dewey in Bartlesville. The building was a Sears, actually, like an automotive store for a long time. And then more recently, it's been a church, and we acquired it from the Frank Phillips Club, who are partners with us as well. Those guys made it super easy to get in this building. We could not have done it as easily as we did it without them. So they still continue to have their events here and their club nights, and they're a major part of what we're doing. So we're really grateful for their partnership. And so that's how we came into it. It took quite a bit of remodel when we were in here. There were some drop ceilings in and a lot of floor work to be done, and painted the outside, new windows, the roll doors new. We did most of it, everything we could do that didn't require a license or some sort of special skill, like windows, we did ourselves with some help from some good friends and volunteers. So it was a really neat process. Our back area is great. We've got 3 pool tables and a regulation-sized shuffleboard back there. We've got cornhole games back there, and then just tables and some kind of loungier chairs. And we've got 3 or 4 screens where we can put on sports if they're on, and mostly they're just off though, and we've got menus displayed back there. All those games were, again, courtesy of Frank Phillips Club. They belonged to them when we acquired the building from them, and so they were able to leave them in here for the most part for us, and then them to use on their club nights. And so it does kind of set us apart because there's not a place to go shoot pool really in Bartlesville, especially not one that's family friendly. So it's a cool space. We're able to close those doors off and rent that space out, and we're seeing a lot of those event rentals pick back up this year, and we're thankful for that, and I think people are really excited to get in here and enjoy that space. And so normally it's just open for anybody to use. We don't charge for the games. They just get all the supplies at the bar and head back there and enjoy the evening, and then return them when they're finished. So it's a pretty cool deal.
The Brew House, it's an oversized 7-barrel brew house. We can brew up to 10 to 11 barrels on it, depending on what the gravity of the start is. So typically we're brewing that 7 to 8 barrel range, and for our more popular beer, which is our most popular beer, the Torpedo Switch, it's an American Standard Ale. It actually we'll do 11 barrels pretty easily on this system. System came from NDL Craft. A lot of details about that. Kind of some craziness went on whenever it came over. Right in the middle of COVID, we couldn't track it down, and then all of a sudden it showed up in Wichita, Kansas, and they said, "You've got to take it the next day."
Yeah, it was crazy. So we said when we ordered it that we wanted it to leave China before Chinese New Year, which was like the 23rd or something that year. And so we get a message and said, "Hey, your equipment shipped. We're going to provide you tracking information in the morning." Great, high five. We're ready. The next morning, shut down. That was COVID. So we email our guy Nick and said, "Hey, did it leave the facility to the shipyard, or did it ship from the shipyard to the ocean? Because that's different." He said, "I have no idea. I could get you information." It was February 14th. It was Valentine's Day. "I'll get you tracking information." And so we said, okay. So we just sat around and twiddle. And finally, on the 14th, he emailed us tracking info, and it was Long Beach, California.
Yeah.
That was it. It was incredible. The day before, because who knows how far down the list we'd be.
Yeah. I think we actually tracked the boat down ourselves. Remember, I went on that maritime, and I said, "I think that's our boat," because it was the only one that came over from that port during that time.
Yeah.
And
we did. Yeah, we had a pretty good guess
crazy.
at it. But.
I mean, it was really a crazy situation, but it came on the coldest day of the year that year, and we had a bunch of help. A bunch of guys in cowboy hats came and helped us get it off the trucks, and all I could do was just turn my back every time that those forks would go underneath there and it would come off. I said, "I cannot watch this," because they were just shaking all over the place, and did not look like the proper way to unload a truck. But we had it unloaded, 6 hours, had it in here. Like I said, like I told you earlier, we had it up and running. About 3 weeks later, we did our very first batch on it, which that was exceptional because everybody said 2 months, 3 months. We did it in 3 weeks. So a lot of work, a lot of help, a lot of friends came in and helped, and we had our first batch up and going. Very first batch, IPA, and we actually put that one out the door. It was clean, and we sent it out the door. Well, we sold it. So
Yeah,
on
it was
opening
good.
day. Our extra pale ale. It was an extra pale ale, which was really an IPA. You know, I'm a chemist by trade, so I like to experiment. And as you know, probably in the beer community, that the Kvike strain, the Norwegian Kvike strains are really hot. You know, 5-6 years. They're still hot. People still brew a lot of beers with them. So my thought was, can we make a clean commercial product that with the Kvike strain? So that's kind of what we built our portfolio off at first, and now we're kind of branching that out into some Saison strains, and we're doing a Hefeweizen right now, and some of the other things. But most of our beers are brewed at high temperatures, very high temperatures for a beer, up to 105 degrees, which is amazing if you think about it, because everybody says keep it under 70. Some of ours are 105, and they're coming out pretty clean. So we kind of built our beer portfolio around the old standards. You know, we do a porter. It's kind of a modified porter, which we call Granny V's, the Granny Verdes, which we're brewing today, by the way. We do the old school stout, kind of the hybrid stout, the classic American Irish stout, so lower alcohol, more dry, not that typical sweet stout that a lot of people are doing nowadays. Definitely not 13%. And then we do, probably our best-selling IPA right now is the Neopa. So it's a New England IPA. It seemed like a good thing to call it, Neopa. It's a New England IPA. It's the nice, juicy beer. It's cloudy. And then we have...
but the acronym we changed to be Northeast Oklahoma Pale Ale instead of the New England IPA. So
played a little Wheel of Fortune there, changed out one vowel, and we get Neopa. So... and then we have our classic West Coast style, which is our favorite son.
Will Rogers.
Will Rogers.
Named after Will Rogers.
And then what else do we got? It's kind of just, I kind of like to go back to the times back in I've been brewing for 30 years. So I was 19 years old when I started brewing. So you can remember the days with the ambers and things like that were coming out. So actually we got an amber in the fermenter right now. So we'll bring out kind of the old school stuff, but we still look at a lot of the new styles too. So,
but don't forget about the Gambler.
The Gambler is our sour, and it's got a kind of a history. It was one of those batches that we needed to do something with because we overmashed it. It was going to be thin, so I said, heck, let's just make this into sour. So the next day we came in, and it was sour like it was supposed to be, and said, let's serve it, and it became our number 2 seller.
It's been crazy. He's been able to...
That's why we call it the Gambler. We took a gamble on it. You got to know when to hold him. So, and we knew when to hold that one, and we keep on doing it.
It's been great. He does a lot of really great spin-offs off that and some good flavor spin-offs off that Gambler. They're exceedingly popular. I mean, if it's a small batch of some sort of Gambler, it's gone in a day and a half, 2 days, depending on how much we have.
Put fruit in it. We'll do one called a fire melon that's watermelon habanero. What are some of the others? We did the cobbler.
Yeah, that cobbler was really good.
Cobbler. We just do a lot of things off the Gambler whenever I have time. And then the others are kind of set up nicely too. The Wonelli is our stout. The hybrid stout, I would call it, American Irish stout. And that's a good one to actually add adjuncts to also. Granny V's a great one to add adjuncts to. So we did a German chocolate cake, that sort of thing. And they're all small batches, just blended off of those. And they seem to do pretty well.
Yeah. And we like to give nods to local history. So, I mean, our name, Cooper Mill, is really with local history. And the Wonelli that Sean just mentioned is named after the Nellie Johnstone, which is the first commercial oil well in the state of Oklahoma, and was obviously huge and kicking off the economic boom for this part of the state. That we like to do that, which is neat. Yeah, so we grinded over a name, and between trademarks and just not the right idea, we couldn't quite figure it out. And Frank Phillips is not a founding father of our community, but ought to be considered one because Bartlesville is Bartlesville because of his efforts and Phillips Petroleum Company. And so kind of in that same vein of wanting to get local history into our beer names or our brewery name, the people know a lot here. If you're from Bartlesville, you know that Frank Phillips was a barber, and then he was a banker, and then he was an oil man. That's the progression of his professional career. But what we didn't know, and then we read in an article at the Frank Phillips home actually, was that his first job as a barber was not in Creston, Iowa, where he was from. He was an apprentice up there, but his first job was in Aspen, Colorado. He moved westward with the silver mining expansion. And that barbershop was the Silver Dollar Barbershop, and it was on the corner of Cooper Avenue and Mill Street. So kind of thought, Cooper Mill. That's a pretty good. It's an obscure fact about a guy that people know a lot about from Bartlesville, and nobody really knows that fact. And then you could couple that in with, Cooper's a maker of barrels, and a mill, of course, is using the brewing process with grains, and so you throw those word plays in, and it turned out to be a pretty nice name. And then Casey, one of our partners, was able to do great work on the branding, and really liked the way those words fit together, and so. And honestly, we were kind of tired of thinking of names. So
it's a whole lot more difficult to think of names than it is to brew beer.
Yeah, it's crazy.
No doubt.
It's crazy.
So that's the worst part of the whole job.
Well, I'll say one thing that Sean does really well. What he doesn't do well is brag on himself. So I'll take over there. But
I'm learning.
What he does really well with his styles is that he stays true to the style, and he stays in a good way conservative with it. So like take for example an IPA. I mean, it's not going to be 102 IBUs. It's going to be something lower that's more palatable, that reaches more people, and that you can sit down and have 2 or 3 of without just really getting over flavored, I guess, if that makes sense. And so I think that appeals to a wide range of palates. I think it satisfies beer nerds too, because they appreciate good beer, but it also satisfies people that maybe are new to the beer scene, and they come in and say, "Oh, IPA, I don't know about IPA, so we'll just try this one," and they end up really, really liking it. So he does a really nice job of staying right in those styles, and that's something that he said from the very beginning. That's how he brews beer. So starting November, we launched in the self-distribution part of our industry, and we've been met with a lot of really great reception around that. So we've got 9 or 10 accounts just here around Bartlesville, and then one in Pawhuska. People seem to really like having it. It goes pretty quickly in those restaurants, and so dipping our toes in those waters and figuring out, how we can increase that production properly is kind of our next step. More immediately, like I said, we're getting more events. We're going to attend more festivals. So we're just trying to grow our brand a little bit.
Yeah, it's definitely we got cans now. So they're just October seemed cans, but we got cans to go. That's been a huge seller.
Yeah.
In fact, we can't seem to keep cans in.
It's hard.
Some of the other stuff about going back to the styles a little bit again. With like John said, we go on the easier side, like the IPA. Our favorite son is like 55 IBUs. It's right on the bottom end of the IBU range. There's a reason for that. Eventually, we'll probably do that 1 million IBU IPA that you just barely can choke down, but it's going to be a while. So we're getting people into the IPAs, and they're starting to get a little bit more liking the bitterness. Training people what the New England style is. That's kind of sometimes fun. Yeah, a little bit. We knew that going into it. That's why we were kind of we picked the beers we did, and we didn't start out with the barrel age program. We didn't start out with the 10% Russian Imperial. So we started out on that low end and moved up. Now we do have a Russian Imperial that we call the Whiskey Club, and it comes out seasonally or whenever I get the barrels transferred over. I wouldn't say it's seasonally, but it's not all the time.
We just had one season.
Yeah, we had one season of it so far, and a couple little mini seasons, again, small batch type things. But we stick to that Whiskey Club name on that. And that's kind of got a cool name because it's named after our local Scotch club. They came in and helped me blend it, so they tasted all the different. I had 3 different beers to blend, and they tasted, and they said, "You need to blend it like this." And I said, "Thank goodness," because that's exactly how I was going to blend it. So I think I might have already had it blended before they came in, but they didn't. They won't know that until they see this interview. So, but we call it the Whiskey Club after our local Scotch club.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's becoming a real place of community in Bartlesville. I think that people really enjoy the fact that we're family friendly. The big open space and high ceilings are great. The free games back there are great. It's an easy place to come watch live music or bring food in and have family dinners. And we're developing that sense of community, like I said, in Bartlesville, which is already a community that feels that way about itself. And so it's almost like a microcosm of Bartlesville. The space is clean. We had some good architectural help and interior design help getting that done. And it's played off really well. And so I think it just does bring that sense of community to Bartlesville.
And we do food trucks when we get them, and we have a high school kid that has a hot dog stand, Ryan's Dogs. And during the wintertime, we even bring him in and set him right here where we're at with his hot dog stand. So we run his propane outside and bring him in, and he's good to go. So 30-degree weather, we still have hot dogs in here on the weekend. So that's worked out great. Of course, I'm ready moving back outside.